Hi everyone, and thanks for tuning into the big interview. I'm Kel.
I'm Lisa.
And today we are joined by activist Nathaniel J. Nathaniel, how are you doing?
Oh, I'm fine. How are you two?
Oh, we're as well as can be expected, I suppose.
Great to have you. We know that you're super busy at the moment.
Oh, it's my pleasure. My pleasure to be here.
Listen, we've got to start by addressing it's a sin. You must be so proud to be part of such an important piece of work.
Oh, it's been a whirlwind. It's an absolute honor as somebody who lives with HIV, and has gone on that journey. I've lived with HIV for nearly 18 years. To be involved in this production is, when I was offered the audition, I literally jumped at it, and when I got the part, I was over the moon. And I think when we were filming, we filmed before coronavirus hit, so we'd finished filming. It wrapped in February last year, and I think we knew we were making something special. I think we knew that it's Russell T Davies, so obviously as a gay man, I was like, this is going to be good, and the script was amazing, and we knew that, and it was a great team. But even Russell has said himself, and the people at Channel 4 have said they've never seen the response that this has had has just been incredible. And I think just hit at such a timely moment. We're going into LGBT History Month, National HIV Testing Week. There's another global pandemic on the scene. It's been a whole. The universe has just sort of married up and everything's collided, and it's something very special has happened. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely has. It's just been on the news actually today that it's the most streamed show ever now on Channel 4 with something crazy like 6.5 million streams already, and the run's not actually finished broadcasting, has it? So
no, I know it's just incredible. And like I say, even Russell, who's has been in the limelight before for good reason. Even he texted me and went, I've just never seen anything like this.
So. Well, I have to admit that we've actually watched it twice now from start to finish. And I think the first time we watched it, we were really sort of mind blown. And I'm not sure why, because we knew the history, but I think it was just so wonderful for us to see that on the telly. We just don't have those stories told in the television in that way. And I just thought it was great. It's been really well received in the community. We've spoken about it on some of our other shows, and all our folks here are really, really delighted to see it. So well done. And thank you for doing it. Thank you for being part of it.
Oh, I was just one tiny little piece in a huge, a huge production. But I think you're right. I think it's given. I wrote something in an article for the newspaper, which was about, I sense that there was still an unhealed wound in a sense in the LGBT community. I don't really think we've had, as we see in the show, and I'll try not to give any spoilers away for anyone who's not seen it, but LGBTQ people not having access to grief, not having access to funerals, for friends and lovers being taken away, and not being able to see them in hospital, or even just simply people just going home, and not in today's connected age where you can just check in on Facebook, just losing touch with close friends or people that you used to see on the scene or at a party, and I think I've lots of people, even my close friends who are older than me, and have lived through that, they're saying, they hadn't really realized how heavy it had weighed on them, and this has been a chance to let that out. And it's been a tough watch, but I think really important. And like you say, LGBT stories, we don't see them like this. And Russell has a great way as well of writing our stories, or this is gay male story particularly, but writing in a way that is not. Richie's an anti-hero. He's not particularly likable in parts of the story, and so I think but he represents reality and real people and what it's actually like, and we're not all good or bad, we're sort of multifaceted,
normal people.
Absolutely.
Exactly.
The other reason why it's really important as well is that the younger generation, we've got teenage children, so for us it's really important that they know the history. We recall it, but they, like when we try to describe the AIDS crisis to them, And it's just kind of went above their heads. But I think this brings it to life in a brilliant way. And it tells real stories, stories that they will be able to sort of empathize with and see their peers in.
And people they can relate to. I suppose that's the thing, isn't it? You're saying that not everyone's necessarily a wholly likable character, but that, like you say, they're multifaceted and they're real people and they're the people we all know.
Mm.
Did you feel when you were filming, I mean, obviously you must have had a lot of fun filming it, but was there this sense of responsibility amongst the cast and crew that you were telling such an important story?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, I mean, you know, like you have fun filming. Filming is a hard slog as well, you know, like it's, you know, you're talking 5 a.m. starts most days when you're called to set. You know, we were filming through the winter, so it was cold and wet. And, but yeah, there was I'm really pleased, you know, I'm the only openly HIV positive member of the cast. But the rest of the cast is very queer, you know, all the gay characters are played by gay people. There are trans people in the cast, you know, there are non-binary actors in it. So there was a real sense that the importance of wanting to honor these stories for sure. And I think the cast, the principal cast particularly, really bought into, and I was really pleased, they really got stuck into the sort of activist side of it, and they you know, even just seeing them on social media really engaged, and they don't need to be in that sense, but they are, and they all genuinely do care. And we all went to the George House Trust Gala Ball in 2018 when it was, you know, when we were filming. So yeah, but I think everyone was really wanted to just do those stories and those lives that were lost, and you know, justice, and I think that comes across on screen, hopefully.
Absolutely. You're saying about people on social media, it seems like the whole cast have jumped behind it.
Yeah, absolutely. Everyone is just honestly, I can't even begin to tell you what it's been like for us, you know, and we've all been sort of messaging one another and going, how are you doing? How's, you know, and the cast, you know, they've all played a blinder. The young cast particularly, you know, who relatively, most of them this is their first major telly gig, like me. You know, they've just thrown themselves fully into it, and I think they're amazing. You know, sort of activists really at heart as well. You know, they're really passionate and care about the stories that we want to tell, and care about, you know, good representation of LGBTQ people on screen. And yeah, so it's been amazing to get to know them.
Yeah, it's brilliant, and airing at just the right time. We know you're a passionate activist. We also know it's HIV testing week. What advice would you have for people? I mean, I know there's a big push for people to be testing at the moment, and obviously because of lockdown, people may be testing alone and maybe receiving those results while they're alone. What advice would you be able to offer to our community to be able to help them through that process?
Yeah. Oh gosh. Well, I mean, when I was tested, it was 2003, but it still felt like the world that we see in It's a Sin. You know, the 2-week wait. You know, going into the doctor, going into the hospital, in fact, to have the blood test taken. You know, and today, thankfully, you can get a rapid home test kit. You know, so it will take about 2 minutes for you to find out. They're not 100% accurate. They're pretty accurate, and then if you get a positive result, it will refer you on to have that confirmed. I think for me, you know, it's about removing some of the weight and the heaviness that we see in It's a Sin. You know, that is history, you know, and it's important to really sort of get that message home, because, you know, I've lived with HIV for 18 years. I'm on medication, 1 tablet a day. It has no side effects. And my partner is HIV negative. He takes PrEP, which is pre-exposure prophylaxis, which is available on the NHS as well to anybody who thinks they might be at risk if you're not using condoms. So PrEP is amazing. And you know, even just if I went back 4 years and said to myself, you'll be in a serodiscordant relationship, so you'll be in a relationship with someone who's HIV negative, and you'll be able to have sex without a condom, and he won't contract HIV. You know, it's like, it blows my mind. So even just in the last few years, with that undetectable equals untransmissible message, you know, everything has changed again. So I think, you know, the thing with HIV is it's a very stigmatized illness, and so I don't want to downplay the fear that people might still feel. But you know, if left untreated, HIV, you know, is going to lead to complications. So you need to make sure that you get tested, you get the treatment, and when you get the treatment, you're going to be absolutely fine. Absolutely fine. And what it also means is that you're not then putting other people at risk, because most new transmissions come from people who don't know they've got the virus. So it's really important that people if you're sexually active, get a test every 6 to 12 months. And I say to people, just you go see your dentist, you look after your teeth. It's exactly the same with your sexual health, and when you're in control and in the driving seat, it becomes much less scary.
Absolutely, that's fantastic advice. Do you worry about our younger generations? And because there isn't this fear nowadays regarding HIV, and people very much feel that it's a treatable issue, do you worry that causes or can encourage more carelessness?
No, I mean, I take a very sex positive approach, and I think, particularly for gay men, if we talk about that very specifically, men who have sex with men, there hasn't been a time since 1981 where we haven't lived with sexual anxiety, or anxiety around sex, and PrEP, that what I just mentioned before, has all of us, and treatment as prevention, or so me on HIV medication, meaning I can't pass it on. That has really, it's almost like I liken it to when the pill was introduced for women, the birth control pill. That sense of sexual freedom and that and that liberation as well, from the fear of getting pregnant or from the fear of contracting HIV. So for me, it's really important, I think, to continue to tell people that HIV is for life. So you don't want to go out shopping for it. If I could live my life without HIV, I would. It would mean many less visits to the doctors, and like I say, the associated psychological impact of the diagnosis, which for me and for lots of other people with HIV can be ongoing. So I have post-traumatic stress disorder, for instance, from when I was diagnosed, and so it's not something you want to go out shopping for. But I think it's really important to let people know that if they do contract it, there is no blame, there's no shame, and you're going to get excellent healthcare on the NHS for sure.
Yeah, excellent. So I know you do a lot of work with George House Trust. Do you want to tell us a little what it is you do and how you engage with the community and how you work?
Yeah, so George House Trust is an amazing charity in Manchester. They, in fact, actually, some of the storylines you see in It's a Sin are inspired by lots of real people who were involved in the early days of George House Trust. So Russell interviews some very good friends of mine. In fact, some of the founder members of George House Trust, which was originally Manchester AIDS line, a phone line, which is what you see in London in It's a Sin. And George House Trust have been there for me. I've been supporting me every step of the way, really, since I started engaging with them. And as I've grown in confidence with my diagnosis, and I'm a theatre maker and a writer and a performer and a community artist, so I've begun to think about the ways in which I can give back to that and support the HIV community through my work. So my solo show, First Time, which was on tour before Miss Rona hit the scene, that's about my story living with HIV, and that's supported by George House Trust. And then more recently, whilst we were on pause for We Can't Tour, we managed to get some funding to do a project called In Equal Parts with George House Trust. And In Equal Parts is about me recognizing that I'm quite privileged. I'm white, I'm male, cisgendered male, I'm from a middle class background. And actually, it took me 15 years to work through the shame, but actually it's quite safe for me to say I'm HIV positive. And it's very, and I can say it quite loudly and proudly now. But I know that in other communities, parts of the HIV community, it's not safe for the people. If you're trans or, or from people from the Black community, there's lots more stigma around. So it was about going, what can we do to amplify other voices? So In Equal Parts there's so many strands to it. There's education, there's workshops. We're making films about other activists who live with HIV, who are doing amazing work in Manchester, in their own sort of communities. But also it's about it's a rallying call as well, because U equals U has leveled the playing field now. So so I for all of my adult life, I was inverted commas, I don't think it's, but infectious, I could pass HIV on, and now I can't. And it's looking at, it's for me flipping it around and saying to everyone, look, if we're going to end HIV by 2030 or end all new transmissions by 2030, which is the UK goal set by the government, everyone's going to have to think about what their role in that is. So in equal parts is about everyone going, okay, do I need to get tested? How can I be a better ally? What story? Where do I need to listen? Where do I need to step up? How can I support in that, in that effort? So that's the work I've been doing with George House Trust most recently.
That's fantastic. I mean, I know our community is very aware, and we know that this has hit our community hardest, but I think heterosexual people, how can we reach the heterosexual communities and make sure that they are taking as good care?
Yeah, I mean, that was one of my fears with It's a Sin, is obviously the narrative was the the gay storyline, which HIV does disproportionately affect men who have sex with men in the UK. About just under 50% of people living with HIV are from that community, but that does mean that there's over 50% are not, and we know that infection rates are dropping in the LGBT community. They dropped drastically last year, and studies are suggesting that's probably because of PrEP and access to PrEP. But we do know that uptake in other communities for PrEP is low. We know that people don't have that information about PrEP. And also testing rates are lower in the heterosexual population. But just this week, I mean, it's National HIV Testing Week from the 1st of Feb, and I had a phone call with the Terence Higgins Trust this morning with their media team, and what It's a Sin has done is just all of a sudden got everyone, the heterosexual community as well, thinking about this part of our history. Lots of heterosexual people going, I didn't even know that happened. Didn't live in the digital age back then. People lived through that and didn't really know what was going on because, media was very selective about what they reported. And so, we've got this captive audience all of a sudden. And the Terence Higgins Trust have said that they've had 8,000 home testing kits booked Monday and Tuesday alone of HIV testing week, which is incredible. So I really hope that those messages that we're throwing out now, and all the HIV organizations and all the HIV activists have jumped on this chance, the digital age, to go, you've seen It's a Sin, well, this is what you need to know now. And it's really opened up that conversation, which has been amazing. So hopefully we'll see that everyone understands that it's not a gay disease. It can impact anyone, and if you are sexually active, you're at risk, and you should be getting tested regularly. And it's easy and relatively stress-free to get a test. Even in a pandemic, you can get home testing kits. So.
And it's fantastic that actually this show has opened people's eyes, and it's having an impact, isn't it? That's why we need shows like It's a Sin.
Well, yeah, exactly, and it just shows you the power of great drama. And also sometimes I'm a writer and a performer, and sometimes when I write, I want to get a certain message across, and actually what the show has reminded me is that actually if you just tell a story, and if the story captures people's hearts and minds, then actually it's the conversation that happens around that can be almost the most impactful way, because you sort of, rather than preaching to people, you get people engaged on a human level, and they want to, and then you lead them to that information. So rather than people feeling they're being spoon-fed or force-fed like a public health message, actually you're giving a platform and opportunity for people to educate themselves. And and I think people take, when people take information in like that, I think it sticks better, and I think people take greater responsibility for themselves and their actions beyond that. So
I agree. So you just touched on your work as a writer. I'd like you to tell us a bit about your one-man play, First Time. I know it's had excellent reviews. I also note that it can now be watched online through your website. So can you tell us a bit about it?
Yeah, so First Time I made back in 2018. 2017, I hadn't told at that point hadn't told my family about my diagnosis. So I'd lived for about 15 years as HIV positive without my family knowing, and without my friends, or just very few friends knowing, really. And I was in a really bad relationship, to very traumatized gay men living out that trauma, you know. And I think it's quite common in the LGBT community sometimes, you know. There was, you know, lots of partying, and I thought I was just leading my best queer life, but actually I was really deeply unhappy. And I caught myself two days after a house party, still awake in the mirror, and I just didn't recognize myself. And that was a moment where I went like, something has to change here. And that was what led me to tell my family, and then tell the world very, very publicly in a show that I was HIV positive, and I was breaking through that shame. So it's very much the story of me at 16 coming out, you know, meeting someone who was older than me, that relationship and the fallout from that, and then moving through from that sort of shame to pride, I guess, in a sense, in my personal life. So yeah, it was performing in Greater Manchester in 2018, and we took it to the Edinburgh Fringe in 2019, and it did, you know, much to my surprise, did remarkably well. It was a string of 5-star reviews, and then we were on tour before coronavirus hit. Unfortunately, we had to postpone that. So hopefully we're going to be back on tour in the autumn 2021. It does say on my website that you can watch it online, but that streaming service has actually now stopped the streaming of my show, so you can't actually. But that means you know, everyone will have to come and see it live when it's touring. But also, as well, if people are interested and they want to find out more about the show, the play text has been published as well by Nick Hearn Books, and that's available on my website to buy. So, and also, if people are interested in doing work around either with HIV or around storytelling, and using storytelling as a technique to explore difficult subject matter, there's workshops within that book as well that people can access and use with either community groups or drama groups or whatever. So it's a really great resource as well for anyone that's kind of interested in this kind of work.
Okay, fantastic. We'll put a link to your website and to the section where that book's available underneath this interview when we post it.
Great.
How did it feel being so sort of open and raw and honest and laying your soul bare on stage like that?
Oh gosh. Well, when we first did it, I was booked to do 3 shows, and I just sort of, because everything had sort of stagnated in my life, and it was all to do with the diagnosis, and you know, I had generalized anxiety disorder, like I say, PTSD as a result. I'd not really realized that those things were impacting my life. And then when I started to unpick it all and make this show, I just sort of, there was like a real fearlessness. So I was like, I just threw everything at it. And I remember the director going like, do you want to put that in? Like, that's that's really personal. You know, parents are going to come and see this, you know, all these things. And I just thought at that point, it was all or nothing, really. I'd lived with so much secrecy about, you know, what had happened to me and the things that I'd done in my life. And I was like, I know there are particularly for me, other gay men who feel this shame, and they might not even be HIV positive, but I know that that there are, you know, there is a slight darker side sometimes to LGBT life. You know, we talk about pride, but lots of us live with lots of shame because of, you know, growing up in a homophobic or transphobic world. So I was determined to not kind of you know, put roses over that or anything, and actually show some of what that actually is like. And yeah, so that I remember they said to me, because my story just hit the headlines in a way that we weren't expecting. I was trending higher than Jennifer Aniston's bangs on BuzzFeed News. You know, it was like I was in the BBC News article, and then I was on the BBC Breakfast Couch with Charlie and Naga, and there was all this kind of whirlwind of media. And actually, you know, I'm very thankful that the show went well, because if it hadn't have done that, would have been it. You know, I would have had to pack up as an actor and writer and move over to a different profession, I think. But I think it was very freeing to just be authentic and to just be myself, and I actually say things, you know, for things that had happened to me or things that I'd done, and not have any, with no judgment from myself or no judgment from others. Just these things happened, and sometimes we don't get that chance to say that. And I think for lots of people who've seen the show or read my story, I get lots of people who say, "Oh, that's really helped me understand that we all go through lots, these very difficult things in life, and we don't need to be ashamed or secretive about them. So yeah, and that.
Yeah, I was going to ask you actually, do you have a lot of feedback after people come and see the shows? Do people then approach you and want to discuss it and want you to be their, their oracle and their agony aunt?
Yes, they do actually, and often as well when the stories are sort of published in the media. When we first did the show, the BBC News article was actually shared on BBC Mundo, which is across the Spanish-speaking world. So I then had just an influx of messages in Spanish, which I was using Google Translate to translate, saying, thank you for sharing the story. And people, and it's quite a lot sometimes it can be quite overwhelming, that response. And I very much, if someone feels comfortable enough to open up to me, and I think sometimes it's easy to open up to a stranger, I really do want to honour that, and I do try and reply to everyone. It's been, I think I potentially might have missed a few with It's a Sin, because it's been literally, thousands and thousands. But I am really honoured when people open up, and I do try and get back to people. But also I have to acknowledge that, I can't be, the oracle, and also I don't have the answers. Like, who am I? I'm just a kid from Stockport. Do you know what I mean? Like, I've messed. There's a line in the show, and I can't say it because it's probably swearing, so I'll have to do a non-swearing version. But it's basically like what a mess. Basically, I made a mess of my life, and then at the end of the show, I say to everyone in the audience that we all make a mess of our lives. Like, you're going to make a mess of yours, and you're going to make a mess of yours, and you are, and it's like, sometimes I think people see me saying these things openly, and then they think that I've got it sorted, and I haven't. I've still not submitted my tax return. Do you know what I mean? Like, it's overdue. I'm still flapping about with money.
Nathaniel, what are you doing?
Well, they've extended the deadline, so it's fine. They've extended it to the 28th of Feb, so we're all right. But you know what I mean? Like, I think I wanted to be really open and honest with people, and like, things have got better for me since I've been open, but it's an ongoing, we're all a work in progress. I still have to have therapy. I still do things that I'm sometimes, ashamed of, or, make mistakes. So yeah, I'm very clear.
Isn't it? That's the journey that we're on. And as humans, we are not infallible,
No,
we're not perfect, and that's okay. That's
no, exactly. And I think the other thing is I've got to be very clear and careful that I don't carry too much of other people's trauma, and that's a big thing as an activist, or or just as someone who's on a pedestal in a sense, or a spokesperson. So I do have to make sure that I can put the phone down and walk away from Twitter, or or Instagram, and go and have a life as well, and make sure that I'm doing those nice things. I've got a wonderful new boyfriend who makes sure I'm doing those things. He's looking after me, so it's great.
Perfect.
He must be very proud of you.
Oh yeah, he so I've had, because I've had so many requests, he said, I'll manage your inbox for you. I was like, well, don't you need to do work? And he's like, no, it's fine, I can manage that, I'll be your PA. And he's made this beautiful spreadsheet. Honestly, I never thought a spreadsheet could be romantic, but he has shown me that it can be, and honestly, it's wonderful.
I bet he regretted that offer.
I know. He said today, he's like, there's a lot of it. There's a lot coming in today, and I was like, well, you said to do it. No, I was like, at any point, if it's too much, you can hand it back to me.
It sounds like a good egg.
Yeah.
Oh, good stuff. Well, thank you so much for speaking to us today, Nathaniel. I know you're super busy, and I know we're probably just, one pride of all the prides in the land that wanted to speak to you, and all the, the print media and the visual media. So thank you so much for your time. We really, really appreciate it. And do you have any parting words for our viewers, just to make people feel a bit good about themselves?
Well, I was just going to say, get tested, which is always that is always my prevailing message. But look, this year has been just been really hard for everyone, hasn't it? And I think just keep at it. Like, the light is at the end of that tunnel. That vaccine is here. and we'll all get through this, and also HIV as well. The light's end of the tunnel for that. 2030 is not that far away. 9 years, and hopefully no new transmissions in the UK. That's an incredible thing to look forward to. I'm going to be putting my feet up, do you know what I mean, and having a cup of tea. 2030, bring it on.
Hang up your hat.
Thank you.
Fantastic. Nathaniel, thank you so much for joining us, and we hope you remain a friend of Pride in Surrey, and we hopefully can